I loved this film, but I can see people's complaints coming. Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. With the North American theatrical release of the second Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel movie, I thought I'd give my impressions. It's not a review per se, but rather a chance to talk about the movie within the context of how difficult it is to adapt a visual novel to animation. I'll start off with a spoiler-free overview of my experience, before tossing out those training wheels and getting to the good stuff. If you haven't seen the film, you might want to peace out before then. Before we get started, let's recap the experience that was Heaven's Feel 1, Presage Flower. When the film launched, there was nothing but praise, and a lot of that is still true. Ufotable adapting more Fate is always a dream come true. They brought us both intense action sequences and iconic moments of drama, with the Type Moon quirks we're in love with. That said, a lot of people haven't actually played the visual novel, or watched my playthrough of it here on OtakuDaiKun, so they lack the knowledge of what was and wasn't retained in the film. As usual, the film was unable to directly represent Shiro's internal monologues, something that gives great context to his arguably nonsensical and reckless actions. Personally, I feel Ufotable does a great enough job with facial expressions, music, and overall emotional tone to justify his behavior, but I can certainly understand where people are coming from. Another point of contention was the presence of Ilya. I won't say how, but Ilya plays a major role in the Heaven's Feel route, almost to the point where this route is focused on her almost as much as Sakura. There were key moments between Shiro and Ilya that should have occurred in the first movie. Naturally, I assumed such scenes were merely being rearranged to fit into the second film, and we'll come back to that. While the first movie gave us a lot of new development, like actually seeing how Shiro first met Sakura and their budding relationship together, it left out some interesting details in favor of getting straight to the action. Kojiro Sasaki being torn open before you even get to see his face, for one. It covers the events, but I don't recall them ever explaining within the movie what a true assassin is, for that matter. Overall though, the film focused on events we most wanted to see, allowing our knowledge of the visual novel to fill in some of the logic gaps. I think it's perfectly enjoyable without the novel, but I know I would have been confused without delving into some added research. In the first movie, we see that, unlike in the other routes, Zoken makes an earnest effort to win the Fifth Grail War, in part from watching Shinji's sorry ass lose pathetically to Artoria. It establishes Sakura as the main heroine, torn between her family and the man she loves, all while growing progressively more ill, as a creepy-ass shadow gobbles folks up in Fuyuki. Meanwhile, Zoken's own servant, Hassan of the Cursed Arm, goes on a killing spree, allowing the shadow to devour the servant's corpses. This all comes to a grand finale, when Artoria is corrupted by the shadow, and Hassan tries to kill Shiro, only to get ragdolled by Medusa. The credits roll, giving Shiro and Sakura time to figure out how to proceed further. It's a solid narrative arc, with a few threads leading right into this new film. Thus, Shiro's crazy ass decides to try and fight without a servant. Sakura begins making actual advances on Shiro, and Ilya decides to take a chill pill long enough to actually converse with Shiro. I thought to myself just how much more of the story the second film would actually cover, and was surprised that it covered way more than I expected it to, such that the final film in the trilogy will likely just be one big finale, with most of the groundwork being laid out in Lost Butterfly. This means we get to see a lot of amazing moments from the visual novel, but I can't help but feel they rushed some of them. There's at least one major moment in the novel where all seems lost, and we're supposed to breathe and recollect ourselves before proceeding, and that contemplation gets completely tossed out, making it feel more like an ass pull than it was really meant to be. Also, while the first film had a myriad of amazing servant fights, this film really only had one epic fight. That said, it's epic as fuck, and totally worth the build-up, but just realize that the drama is what takes front row seat in this production. I imagine that it'll be later seen as the weakest film of the trilogy, but for now I'll hold my tongue on that. So yeah, it delivered the same brilliance as the first movie, but shifts its focus into high gear to cover the majority of the arc's development, while still managing to leave a few things out. Not that I would ever in a million years discourage you from seeing the film, since it's still absolutely amazing. I just realized that people's woes about Heaven's Feel being a set of movies and not a TV series have started to make their point. I don't think you'll be confused watching the movie, or that you'll need to research specific events to get the full story, but you may not get the same emotional impact that the visual novel set up. With that out of the way, I'm going to end my spoiler-free section and dive into exactly what was rushed and deserved more screen time. If you want to remain pure and unspoiled, leave and come back after you've seen the movie. Right from the film's start, we've got one major question. What the fuck is that shadow? And what can we do to stop it from harming Fuyuki's people? Sakura's sad to find out that this is only the beginning of Shiro's dangerous antics. Pretty early on, Ilya makes her cute sister debut, presumably no longer interested in killing Shiro during the day, since he lost Saber. This conversation gets its job done and ends when Shiro carelessly asks her about Kiritsugu. Ilya ain't ready for that kind of reality check. Shiro and Rin meet up and decide to become allies. At her house, Shiro discovers an old picture of Rin wearing Sakura's ribbon. Getting straight to the action, Shinji captures Sakura and holds her hostage to get back at Shiro. The fight they normally have in the hallway is now in the school's library and is quite a bit flashier, although nowhere nearly as violent as Shiro describes in the novel. Ryder kicks the crap out of Shiro, but reveals she's only putting on an act to trick Shinji. She kicks Shiro into the bastard, giving Shiro the chance to free Sakura. Rin and Archer come to the rescue, once more defeating poor Medusa and burning Shinji's grimoire. All of this is handled brilliantly. Rin completely emasculates Shinji, and when Sakura refuses to keep fighting, Shinji causes her earring to break. The magical aphrodisiac sends Sakura into a mana-draining fit, with Medusa defending her. After she hurts Shiro, her black mana goes nuts and rebounds on her. As a convenient and swift scene change, the injured Shiro wakes up in church and learns that Kirei has literally sacrificed his magic crest to save Sakura. She is, however, not cured, with the crest worm still alive. The question then becomes, should Sakura be allowed to live if she is such a dangerous person? Rin, revealing that they're siblings, reasons she has a duty to off Sakura. But Shiro ain't gonna have that. He finds Sakura in the rain, and they happily accept one another, flaws and all. Surprisingly, it's Ilya who gives Shiro the courage to choose saving Sakura over saving the world. This conversation covers the details left behind by their previous encounter. Even Archer is kinda thrilled about Shiro betraying his ideals, as it means he'll no longer become the same guy. Then come the sexy bits. Unable to admit she wants his semen, Sakura settles on lewdly sucking Shiro's blood to restore her mana. This was part of the Rialta Nua version, replacing the sex scenes. It's nice having Sakura and Medusa included in a strategy session for the war for once. They collectively decide to cooperate with Ilya and Berserker, with Shiro heading off to the Einsburn forest on his own. There's a nice exchange between Sakura and Medusa, during which Sakura shows a bit of her more sadistic side, confident that Kirei could not possibly defeat her. Honestly, this is all the foreshadowing we need, but it doesn't stop there. She gets hyper horny and gropes herself, indicative of the lust the crestworms thrust upon their prey. Afterward, she goes full yandere, reasoning that if she can incapacitate Shiro, she can keep him safe at home. I'd say we're already getting a more concise and provocative picture of Sakura's inner darkness than the visual novel ever gave us. Ilya meets Zoken outside the Einsburn castle, giving us some nice exposition on the First Grail War. Then, from the shadow, our delightfully evil, sexy saber alter comes out to initiate the film's one major servant battle, Sulter versus Heracles. The shadow is a hell of a lot more aggressive in this film, which kinda makes it less uncanny, but no less threatening. Shiro rescues Ilya, and Archer rescues Shiro from the battle. Archer splits off to duel Hassan, which is fun. Just like usual, Hassan cheats and has the shadow whittle down its opponents. Shit gets real when Ilya desperately calls for Heracles, and their fight goes on limited budget works. Saber seems to be level-headed, as Heracles is consumed by the shadow, even going so far as to work alongside Zoken. Basically, she knows what she's doing. Shiro, Ilya, and Rin flee from the expanding shadow, protected by Archer, who is not as easily corrupted by the shadow. since he's not a proper heroic spirit. Regardless, Archer is unable to withstand a frontal assault from the Shadow. Roaius repels the Shadow's explosion somewhat, but Shiro is left bleeding without an arm. Barely alive himself, Archer lops off his own arm and gives it to his younger self, figuring he can at least save one of the two. Everything up to this point has been flawless, giving us some well-needed clarity and choreography to the visual novel's battles. But it's here where I kinda get disappointed. In the novel, it is made pretty clear that Sakura has noticed she is responsible for what happened to Shiro. Her connection to the Shadow is practically solidified by this. Also, the next time we see Shiro, he's in the church again, and Rin and Kirei explain the circumstances behind his new Archer arm and the shroud around it. This arm is a huge frickin' deal, and it's important to flesh out its capabilities and drawbacks. In the movie, however, Shiro just arrives home, greeting Sakura with the new arm. The fact that Kirei helped stabilize the process so Shiro wouldn't die is never mentioned. It just feels rushed, and I suppose it's the latter part of the movie that started to irk me a tad. Rin glosses over the arm's rules, but it still feels so sudden. I do love how they portray Shiro naively removing a bit of his arm's shroud in the bathtub. A lot is conveyed without words. In Shiro's Fap Shed, Rin explains that she first met Shiro doing those damn high jumps outside, the same moment Sakura first fell for Shiro. Sakura starts freaking out that her sister is stealing one of her precious moments. Again, good foreshadowing. Now, a lot of ignorant fools seem to be hating on the film's infamous sex scene, which, believe it or not, is a lot more tame and romantic than in the novel. While I don't need my sex scenes, Shiro and Sakura's lustful connection is indeed a thematic element of the story that should be preserved. Sakura's hot and all, but this scene transcends fan service. They don't even show any sex. It's your typical Hollywood pan-away, so there's really nothing to fret about either way. Honestly, I'm just jealous we didn't get to see Shiro so much as kiss Saber or Rin. Anyway, this is when Shiro makes it abundantly clear he's saving the world for the woman he wants to be with as a lover, despite the trials to come from it. Besides, this is literally the happiest Sakura has ever been. Give her the moment. Now, in both the novel and film, Gilgamesh doesn't get much screen time. We actually get more development in the film between him and Kirei. Oh, and the very first time Sakura calls to Rin as her sister is just brilliant. The visual novel kinda made Rin seem like a super bitch, willing to kill Sakura off and on like a light switch. I like how the film doesn't emphasize this so much. Its brevity actually helps. We're now at 3/4 through the movie, and we're already throwing development towards the jeweled sword Zelrech, which is interesting since the sword won't actually come into play until the third movie. Then, we've got the most original part of the movie, Sakura's strange wonderland dream of sorts. In the novel, Sakura dreams about being the Shadow, literally going around the city and devouring punks that try to hit on her. In the movie, Sakura doesn't see it that way. She's portrayed as completely innocent, simply turning strange creatures into colorful candy. Either way, she is projecting her dark side out as the Shadow at night, but it's interesting to see it shown so innocently. Given that the novel doesn't flat out tell you those sequences are from Sakura's point of view, since it's in first person, I think Ufotable did a clever job teasing the audience by obscuring what's really going on, making for a stark transition that emphasizes Gilgamesh's only major scene quite nicely. Seeing Sakura diced up, writhing on the ground is devastating. And damn, she just gobbles up that leg. It feels different than the novel, but is so visually fulfilling. Certainly the definitive version. Sakura's devouring now feels far more urgent and destructive, making it clear that this isn't just a dream, and making it all the more meaningful that Shiro is willing to let Sakura live in spite of it. Holy shit, it's cool seeing Shiro try and deny connecting Sakura to the Shadow. Now, Taiga is hardly ever part of the visual novel by this point, but in the film, she has a chance to be a really solid role model. Taiga, being knowledgeable of Kiritsugu and Shiro, is the perfect person to rationalize Shiro's desire to save others. This also lets Ilya eavesdrop and learn about her long-lost daddy. They even sneak a bit of Taiga's younger self into the film. The pace slows here to show Shiro's struggle with whether he should kill Sakura, and just how much it haunts him. That said, while the pace is slower here, it still rushes past what I felt was a very emotional moment for Ilya, when she sings out of joy with Shiro. If I recall, in the novel, you need to trigger this scene in order to get the route's true ending, so I find it baffling that they simply snuck it into a montage. Even a solid 30 seconds more would have allowed that scene to at least exist as we remember it. I fear that anime purists won't even realize she was singing for those few seconds. When Zoken tells Shiro that Sakura was merged with fragments of the Last Grail, as well as the Grail's corruption, Shiro is forced to choose between her and the world. Of course, the Shiro we know and love could never harm Sakura. He makes this choice in an intensely dramatic display. Of course, this means Sakura's got to do something about it on her own. She visits her home to confront Zoken, only to find Shinji. Shinji hitting his breaking point is satisfyingly creepy, and the film in no way tries to hide his abusive nature, giving us a look at how his twisted rapes normally played out, with Sakura taking it like a lifeless doll. It escalates when she finally refuses Shinji, and he pushes her to the brink. She finally manifests the bands of her shadow, slicing the back of Shinji's neck with but a single thought. Her evolution into Dark Sakura matches the whimsy and horror of her earlier Wonderland dream. The fact that the film's ending song is so eerie reflects the cliffhanger we're left with. Oh yeah, this movie is absolutely amazing. A totally emotional roller coaster, which manages to often succeed its source regarding visuals, sound, and overall impact. Its only flaw is its limited runtime, which prevented Ufotable from giving us the full experience. It's nothing so brazen as Dean's Unlimited Blade Works film, but I can certainly imagine people shunning the movie for its rapid-fire storytelling. That said, reading through all of Heaven's Feel is a monumental effort, and by considering that, I can tell Ufotable did a fantastic job with the confines of their medium. At no point did the movie ever feel insincere or cheap. So much love was poured into it, and I know that passion will reach viewers. So far, when I get a hankering for Heaven's Feel, these movies are going to be my main source of entertainment, rather than the novel. That's about as much approval as I can possibly give it. What did you all think of Last Butterfly? Let me hear all about it in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this channel, help me beat the algorithm by liking, commenting, and sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and most of all, smashing that notification bell as if it were your waifu. That way you'll never miss out on all of my anime content, lore videos, live streams, and Holy Waifu Wars polls. My vids are struggling to get featured, so that bell is absolutely critical. If you want to support me directly, check out my Patreon, or consider donating via Super Chat. And as always, celebrate your fandom.